So now the panel is open. If anybody has any questions for either panel, please feel free to ask. Any questions? Anything they'd like to say to our panel?
Well, it's not a question, but I want to thank Anand. I had no idea the struggle that folks who aren't born here go through. What I take away from this is it takes 10 to 15 years to become a citizen, but I don't think you get 10 or 15 years before you start paying the taxes that run this country. And so it's without making a statement or a speech, I appreciate that information. So thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Yes, in the back.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
So, couple of observations. I'm on the policy committee of the Plymouth Canton School District, who's recently appointed as a community representative. And some of the things that were mentioned about institutional discrimination or institutional issues, that can be addressed. It all depends about, reaching out to people and trying to educate people. That's not happening. In the last 20 years or 25 years, there's hardly been anybody from the Indian community or the South Asian community who has really attempted to go to the school committee and talk to them and say these are the problems. And problems that we heard about, civil rights problems, the kids having to face discrimination in the school, in the classroom, the school bus, that's changed. That my kids have been in the school district for the last 10 years, and I've kept on having a dialogue with them and trying to understand that they face discrimination. And honestly speaking, to the credit of the community, not once has any of my two kids faced discrimination at the lunch table or I'm not saying, I'm not denying what has happened to others, but there's also a positive story to share. I want to share that the American community and the society is changing, it's evolving. As people know each other, we call our friends over for Diwali, we go for Christmas, they get to understand that Diwali is an important festival. And then they start appreciating it. And then, now in my company, Diwali is a day off, because they understand that Diwali is an important festival. So I just wanted to express that we also, the whole dialogue should not be minority versus majority, and we're being discriminated. There's so many good things happening in the American society, and we are so fortunate that, the society is very open and it keeps evolving. Back at home in India, we have a democracy, but at the same time, there's reverse racism also happening all the time. So we have to look within and say, are we really accepting to other races and other communities? Isn't there a problem within our community also? So that was just something that I wanted to share, and if you have something to...
I agree with a lot of your comments, and as I had said earlier, I believe we've progressed much in the last 20 years, but based on your comment, you said your children are in the Canton schools, correct?
Yes.
Now, the Canton schools have a majority of Indian students. I mean, I've got nieces and nephews there, but the same may not apply to an Indian child whose father owns a store in Fowlerville, and he's the only Indian kid in the school. See, that's where this really comes into play. I mean, had I had 1,000 Indian students in Dearborn Heights, when I was going to Dearborn Heights, I probably wouldn't have faced these adversities that I had to face. It's that when you're singled out, and again, I agree, it's not because you're Indian, it's just because you're different.
Yes.
I don't think they target, oh, he's Indian, we want to attack him because he's Indian. You could be anything. You could be African American, you could be Jewish, you could be Chinese, you could be Vietnamese. You're different. That's where we've got to draw the line. That just because there's somebody that doesn't look like the masses, it doesn't make them any less. And that's the point we've got to bring across. In Canton, I believe it wouldn't happen. I mean, there's thousands of Indian families I know in Canton that are Persian. And then secondly, I agree with the fact that you're talking about, being able to go above and beyond this, but it still stems back to, should the child just tolerate it? And the reason you're saying, Indians don't get involved, I agree 100%. I think that's why I'm really happy that we had this meeting here today. But Indians don't get involved because they've been taught from first generation that this is not for you. Don't argue against them. If you go against them, they're going to start thinking all Indians are like this. You know, you don't want to get them mad at you. So it's a very passive community. So they say, okay, and teach their kids the same thing. The kids are like, okay, they go along and they go read their book and do well in school and just deal with it. But it's got to be in the home front. When this comes up, just like you said, the parents have to get involved. They have to come to the school. They just don't want to cause a stir. And that's what's causing the Indians to be left out.
Now, I just want to add one thing. We have a saying back home that, you know, we have to get both our hands together to make noise or to make a statement. So it's not just, you know, the community here that I'm talking about. It's also addressed back to our own Indian community. The parents, you know, like my kids, you know, accepted Christmas. You know, we used to have a Christmas tree at home. We used to have Christmas gifts, exchange and everything. So I just want parents to be more aware of what's going on both sides. I mean, if they're asking questions, you know, the Indian parent should encourage the kid to answer the question instead of like, you know, like what my daughter did. I didn't want her to take grilled cheese all 5 years, but you know, like at that time, this is years ago, things were a little bit different. Now I hear a lot of kids take Indian food. So, you know, making that awareness on both sides, it makes a big difference. And like, you know, I want the community to be aware, like why, you know, like there's no car loans available for immigrants who come in, why they're not in a home. I'm sure, you know, no Indian wants to like stay in an apartment forever. They want to have a home, they want to live there. So, you know, there's a lot of things, so it's just awareness that would change a lot of things out here.
Thank you very much. Before we close, I want to thank both our immigration and civil rights panel. Let's give them a round of applause.